You hear about this story? Two former U.S. Special Forces now detained in Venezuela among a group of mercenaries involved in an alleged plot to overthrow Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro. Another former Green Beret says he orchestrated the botched operation from Colombia. Meanwhile, Maduro blames the attack on the Trump administration, but the U.S. denies any involvement. What's the real story here? Let's bring in Fox News senior strategic analyst and retired four-star General Jack Keane. General, you heard the story. That's fundamentally the story. The administration denies any allegations that they were a part of this or knew about it at all. How does this happen?
Well, first of all, I don't believe the administration had anything, no involvement in this whatsoever. And after I tell you a few things, you'll understand why. This thing began about a year ago by a former major general of the Venezuelan army, a guy by the name of Alcala. And he currently is in jail in the United States for narco trafficking, and he's been there for about a month. But he was the ringleader. He had a meeting in Bogota, Colombia, as I said, about a year ago. And that is where one of the former Special Forces leaders, a guy by the name of Goudreau, showed up at that meeting. And from that meeting, they put together some Venezuelan deserters from their army. They put them in 3 primitive training camps. Some of them didn't even have running water. Some of them used broomsticks in replacement for weapons. This was primitive at best. They were never able to put together effective training. They never had the proper amount of resources to conduct an operation. They were 300 strong at their peak. About 60-something participated in an operation. Their mission was eventually to unseat Maduro and capture him, but they wanted to raid some Venezuelan army bases to create an insurgent army, to create an uprising, if you will, that would eventually overwhelm Maduro's Venezuelan army and also overwhelm his security and protection forces, which are formidable. I think this plan was bankrupt from the beginning. The Colombians probably knew about it. For sure, because they had these bases on their territory near the Venezuelan border. That means our intelligence services probably had some knowledge of it. But I think anybody who looked at this with clear eyes knew that it had no chance to succeed. Even one of Guaido's envoys supposedly attended the first meeting, and he walked back out of there and told his cohorts that this was a suicide mission destined to fail. So I think this thing had many problems right from the beginning.
Right. So it's not going to work, but we have the embarrassment of having 2 Americans there that I imagine we were going to try to get out. Evidently, 5 Citgo employees, the oil company employees, are also being held there. Where's the priority, if you're in the State Department, with getting them out?
Well, I think this State Department and this administration, to their credit, has been very aggressive worldwide in trying to get hostages out of countries, and obviously many of those countries adversarial countries, and the leverage that they've used to do that with our intelligence services has been excellent.
Right.
Knowing this administration, they'll certainly make a serious attempt, as they will for others that are being held captive that are Americans.
As long as Maduro stays, China, Cuba, and Russia have a stake in our hemisphere, which is a direct violation of the Monroe Doctrine. Something's got to give here. But if we can I pivot you to China? Here's the Secretary of Defense on the possible confrontation and how it would go should we have to have a military conflict with that country.
While the Chinese Communist Party ramps up its disinformation campaign to try to shift blame and burnish its image, we continue to see aggressive behavior by the PLA in the South China Sea. I want to assure the American people and our allies that the United States military remains fully ready and capable to deter every threat, protect the homeland, and safeguard our interests abroad.
Is he right, General?
Well, that's the intent, and I applaud this administration for changing our strategy dealing with China, that we've identified it as a long-term strategic threat to the American people. We don't regard them as a friend. They're not just a competitor. They're not just a country at times we should cooperate with. This administration, I think, correctly has designed a strategic framework. They are a predator. both economically, geopolitically, and militarily. And we have designed a comprehensive strategy to deal with that, a whole-of-government strategy with our allies. But it's uneven in execution, Brian, and we've got a long way to go to dig us out of the 10-year hole we have put ourselves in with China's aggression in the region. They are demonstrating to our allies to try to weaken their resolve that they are the dominant force in the Indo-Pacific region, and the United States has been eclipsed and no longer has the status and power it used to have. And I've been out in the region multiple times, and if you talk to some of our allies, they say, one, welcome back, glad to have you. You guys have got a long way to go, and we've got to work with them and shore up their resilience and their resolve, and that is an effort that's in progress.
Right. We know there's an internal Chinese report that Reuters put out that says they believe to the Chinese that the anti-China sentiment led by the United States in the aftermath will equal the level of Tiananmen Square around the world, and they're preparing for a possible confrontation with the U.S. in the end. Do you believe they think that?
China does not want confrontation with the United States. If they had confrontation to the United States, all of their goals that they're trying to achieve in terms of dominating the Indo-Pacific region and replacing the United States as the world's global power will be extinguished by that kind of a war. What they want to do is they want to achieve those goals by avoiding conflict, but through intimidation and coercion, using their economic power, using their bullying, using their cyber espionage and their massive disinformation campaign. And that's what they want. And I don't believe they want to go anywhere near a conflict with the United States. I will say this. There are members of the PLA, their military, that have a lot of hubris because they have a huge military capability that they never had. But their Communist Chinese Party certainly has got them in tow. And the political leaders of China do not want conflict, although they're willing to have confrontation.
If we're not there, Hong Kong and Taiwan are toast, and the region turns over to that communist brutal regime. It's not turning into the market economy we all hoped for in the 80s, but now we've been sobered up to reality. General Jack Keane, always great to talk to you. Thanks so much.
Good talking to you, Brian.